Malaysia's economy expanded by 7% year-on-year in the final quarter of last year, bringing 2022's full-year gross domestic product or GDP growth to 8.7%. Bank Negara Malaysia or BNM said in a briefing today, the moderation in GDP from the high growth of 14.2% recorded in the third quarter of 2022 was due to the waning low base effect and support from stimulus measures. At 7%, the figure is still above the long-term average of 5.1%, driven by private sector activity and supported by private consumption and investment. Meanwhile, overall export growth moderated in line with weaker external demand, though this was partly offset by the resilient performance in exports of electrical and electronics products and higher tourism activities. BNM Governor Tan Sri Nur Shamsiah Muhammad Yunus noted risk to growth remains tilted to the downside next year and that Malaysia's economy should expand at a more moderate pace. But despite the challenging environment, she said the central bank does not rule out the possibility of growth in 2023 being higher than expected. Starting today, private vehicle owners are no longer required to display road tax stickers on their vehicles or carry their physical driving license while behind the wheel. Instead, they may show the digital version of the road tax and license via the Road Transport Department's or RTD's web portal or the MyJPJ mobile application. According to Bernama, Transport Minister Anthony Loke said this is the first phase of the digitalization of the Road Transport Department's core services. Loke said this initiative will be implemented in stages, with the first phase involving individual private vehicles. He added that the enforcement carried out by RTD and the police will be parallel and gave his assurance that enforcement officers will not issue summonses against those who fall under this first phase. Loke said even if an owner is issued a ticket, he or she may send it to the Ministry of Transport for no further action, as the exemption will be gazetted within 2 weeks. The digital display option is not yet mandatory. The ministry is giving private vehicle owners a year to adapt to the digital system and is also taking into account the constraints of owners in rural areas, especially in Sabah and Sarawak. Private companies, vehicles owned by foreign nationals, and commercial vehicles are, however, still required to display a physical road tax sticker under this phase, while holders of the learner's driving license, vocational license, and foreign nationals who hold Malaysian driving licenses and international driving permits are still required to have a physical card. Malaysia Marine and Heavy Engineering or MHB posted its fourth consecutive quarterly net profit with 27.14 million ringgit recorded in the fourth quarter of FY22. Revenue slipped 1.85% to 424 million ringgit on lower heavy engineering revenue offset by higher contribution from the marine segment. With a strong fourth quarter, MHB's net profit for FY22 came in at 67.77 million ringgit from a net loss of 270.41 million ringgit in FY21. Full-year revenue rose 12.56% to 1.65 billion ringgit. It was the group's strongest full-year net profit since FY 2014, when it recorded 129.93 million ringgit in earnings on the back of 2.7 billion ringgit in revenue. On prospects, MHB expects high inflationary pressures and supply chain disruptions to continue to pose challenges to its heavy engineering business. It also sees manpower constraints potentially affecting timely execution of dry docking works, which has seen high activities under its marine segment, while the recent lifting of China's border restrictions could lead to tougher competition among shipyards or dry docking opportunities moving forward. It expects the marine business to remain challenging. At the close, shares of MHB slipped 2.76% to 70.5 sen, giving it a market capitalization of 1.13 billion ringgit. Tropicana Corp says it has called off an agreement with Power China International Group to develop a 308-acre integrated entertainment hub dubbed Tropicana Paradise in Genting Highlands. The deal was signed on February 11, 2022 between Tropicana Inspirasi Indah and Tropicana Inspirasi Impian and Power China's unit Sino Hydro Corp Malaysia. Tropicana Paradise is part of the 596-acre mega master planned development in Genting Highlands called Tropicana Wind City, which will feature, among others, 1.5 million square feet of retail space, serviced apartments, branded residences, as well as 4- and 5-star international brand hotels. In a filing with the local bourse, Tropicana said it has decided to revise the development's master plan after considering surrounding environmental factors as well as the prevailing market demand. It plans to recreate another signature Tropicana township at the mid-hills of Genting to continue its business sustainability. This is in line with its development DNA and its commitment to environmental, social and governance principles. Tropicana's shares finished 6.72% higher at RM1.43, translating into a market value of RM2.97 billion. The Kuala Lumpur High Court Commercial Division has granted a temporary stay of the winding-up order against Serba Dynamic Holdings and its 3 units. The companies are said to have owed syndicated bilateral creditors from financial institutions and sukuk holders a cumulative RM5 billion. Judge Ahmad Murad Abdul Aziz granted the temporary stay order pending the hearing of the company's permanent stay application fixed for next month. He said the court does not think that the creditors would be prejudiced much with this order, which would last approximately 3 weeks. He said the order is granted with the condition that the liquidator appointed is retained until then. Ahmad Murad said he will hear the permanent stay application of the 4 companies on March 6th, followed by a decision on March 9th. On January 10th, Ahmad Murad allowed the applications by 6 financial institutions and some of Serba Dynamic's creditors to wind up the 4 companies. The applications were over the non-payment of loans totaling RM1.7 billion out of some RM5 billion owed. This RM5 billion includes the $500 million or $2.13 billion sukuk on which it had defaulted.